Today, we're unpacking something that is quietly becoming the defining economic story of our time. It's a phenomenon called the silent recession. Look, if you've ever checked your bank account, like so many hardworking parents we've researched, and wondered how your paycheck just inexplicably vanishes in a matter of days, you are absolutely not alone. Take a hypothetical family. Let's call them the Millers. They're putting in the hours, they're doing everything right, and yet they feel like they are falling further and further behind. Okay, let's dive into this because this is the fundamental question we really have to answer. The economy is growing. The stock market keeps hitting record highs. Companies are out there reporting billions in profits. But despite all of this apparent wealth, why do millions of people, like the Millers, feel poorer than ever? The data tells one very shiny story, but the reality for everyday families tells a completely different one. To understand exactly why that is, we're stepping into Act 1, the paper economy illusion. We really need to look at the massive disconnect between those rosy news headlines you see every day and the very real, highly stressful reality happening right now at the kitchen table. And this brilliantly illustrates the exact divide we're talking about. If you only focus on the paper economy, GDP growth, stock charts, relatively low unemployment, you'd think everything is absolutely fine. On paper, things look incredibly strong. But everyday Americans don't live on paper. They live in the real world. And out there, the cost of rent, groceries, healthcare, and insurance has formed this mountain that feels practically impossible to climb. Everyday people are running a race against explosive costs, a race they never agreed to run and one they are increasingly losing. Which brings us right to Act 2, the cost of living squeeze. We're going to bring this macroeconomic data down to the micro level to see exactly what a single household experiences as this relentless squeeze takes hold. Let's go back to our family, the Millers. Imagine Sarah Miller finally gets a hard-earned 10% raise at work. Now, initially, this sounds like a fantastic win, right? She's put in the time, she got the promotion, and she's thinking, finally, a little bit of breathing room. It really should feel like a massive victory. Now, what's really interesting about this is how that victory is completely flipped on its head. That 10% salary increase, it gets entirely swallowed up by a 10% spike in rent and another 10% jump in groceries and insurance. Think about Sarah walking into the supermarket. Her paycheck is technically bigger, but her actual purchasing power is smaller. She gets to the register and suddenly that hard-earned raise means absolutely nothing because the cost of putting food on the table, putting gas in the car, and keeping the lights on has completely devoured it. The numbers in the bank account might literally be higher, but a family's actual ability to survive and thrive has been squeezed incredibly tight. And that shrinking purchasing power crashes directly into our next hurdle, Act 3, the debt and housing trap. Owning a home used to represent the ultimate American dream. It was basically the foundation of building wealth and stability for a family. But compare that dream to today's reality. For families like the Millers, buying a home is being pushed entirely out of reach by punishingly high mortgage rates. And hey, if you think renting is the safe alternative, it really isn't. In so many cities, families are spending a huge, disproportionate share of their income just to keep a roof over their heads. The dream feels less like a milestone you reach and way more like a distant, unattainable goal. Let's move to and see how this builds into an even deeper trap. Because when a family's income isn't enough to cover those massive housing and living costs, what happens? Well, they borrow. Step 1. A family gets hit with an unexpected medical bill, or maybe a sudden car repair. Step 2. Since their paycheck is already stretched to the absolute limit on rent, the credit card becomes the emergency plan. Need groceries? Credit card. Step 3. The debt, and more importantly the interest, quietly grow every single month. See, the problem isn't just the borrowing, it's the compounding interest, which leads to Step 4, wealth stagnates. Instead of building a future, these families get trapped in a vicious cycle of just paying interest to stay afloat. And when you're trapped in that kind of cycle, the toll goes far beyond just your wallet. Let's look at Act 4, the breaking point. We need to talk about the hidden, profound psychological toll this financial stress takes on everyday people, because financial stress deeply affects mental health. Look at the heartbreaking personal sacrifices families are making right now. They're delaying vacations. They're canceling hobbies that used to bring them joy. We've got parents working multiple jobs just to keep up with the inflation on basic goods, completely losing sleep because the math simply doesn't add up at the end of the month. And perhaps most profoundly, some are even postponing starting families. Imagine really wanting to have kids but putting it off because you simply do not feel financially secure enough to provide for them. These aren't just statistics, you guys. This is the lived reality of families like the Millers carrying a heavy, unseen burden.
So the crucial point is captured perfectly right here. I make more money than ever, but I've never felt this broke. That is the battle cry of the modern worker. Technically, sure, salaries have gone up, but because of inflation and the explosion of everyday costs, the reality is that life does not feel easier. It honestly feels like you're pedaling a bicycle as fast as you possibly can, but you're stuck in quicksand. And this brings us to the formal definition of what we are analyzing today. The silent recession is a crisis of purchasing power, where rising living costs strip away financial security and peace of mind, despite positive macroeconomic growth. I really want to highlight that phrase, peace of mind. This isn't just an issue of empty bank accounts. It is fundamentally about a loss of security. The economy looks perfectly fine from 10,000 feet, but down on the ground, the peace of mind that comes with a stable life is just quietly eroding.
And to make matters even more complicated, we have to look at what's coming next. Families are agonizing over today's bills, the inflation, the high rent, the crushing credit card debt. But simultaneously, there is immense pressure building around tomorrow's career. Artificial intelligence and automation are rapidly changing the workplace. Some jobs are becoming more efficient, yeah, but others might disappear entirely. This forces workers to carry a double burden, fighting to pay for the present while feeling intense uncertainty about their stability in the future.
Which brings us to our final act, Act 5. What happens next?
Look, history tells us that economies are living, breathing things that constantly evolve, but the immediate future remains highly uncertain. There are massive unpredictable factors on the horizon. Inflation could cool down, giving families some much-needed relief at the grocery store. Interest rates could change, which might alter those vicious debt cycles we talked about. The housing market may shift. And while technology and AI definitely create anxiety, they could also create entirely new lucrative careers that we haven't even thought of yet. The landscape is absolutely going to shift. But regardless of how the economic indicators move, here is the absolute bottom line. The challenge is making sure ordinary families can actually keep up. As this economic evolution happens, we have to ensure that everyday, working families, like the Millers we've been talking about, who are taking on multiple jobs just to stay afloat, aren't completely left behind in the transition.
This silent recession isn't always visible in economic charts. It's visible in declined credit cards, in sleepless nights, and in families trying their absolute best just to survive. The economy can look wonderfully healthy from far away, but the real question, the one I want to leave you with today, is this. Does everyday life actually feel better? Take a look at your own daily reality. Are you experiencing this silent recession? Share your thoughts below and keep decoding the future with us. Thank you so much for joining this explainer, and I'll patch you in the next one.